Hiyo story ni ajaba. Hiyo story yendi mahali na tunawaongojea bungeni wafike.
President, myself and the rest of us in government are committed to make sure that the people of Lamu County live in peace and there is security for everybody. Ndio kila mtu aweze kufanya kazi yake.
Coast leader present at the burial, including Mombasa Governor Abdulswamad Sharif Nasir and Lamu East MP Ruwetha Obo, opposed the one-man, one-vote revenue-sharing formula, urging the government to ensure equal distribution of natural resources.
Tukiongea katika Council of Governors na Commission for Revenue Allocation, ya kwa hesabu ya pwani lazima iweze kuingilia na ile mambo ya maji na mambo ya blue economy. Hatuzungumzi habari ya lugha ya ukabila wala hatuzungumzi habari ya lugha ya jambo jingine lolote. Tunazungumza habari ya watu wetu.
Ukisema one man, one shilling, one vote kule, wakumbukeni hao watu wa Mpeketoni. Nyinyi mkisema ni satellite ya kule, hakuna shida. Mimi nikisema niliitwa nikasema nikaandikisha statement. Kwa hivyo wako watu wenu, mkisema one man, one shilling, one vote, hawa pia hawapati matibabu mazuri, hawapati barabara mzuri, na wao wafikirie.
Mkisema maendeleo yote iende kwa mlima, what are we supposed to do with these Kikuyus that are scattered across the country?
In other developments, Homa Bay County and Nyanza UDA leaders held a forum with top national UDA officials at the party headquarters, led by former Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero and Silas Jikakimba. They all endorsed the formation of a broad-based government and pleaded to field a candidate for the Ugunja parliamentary seat, which was left vacant after Opiyo Wandai's appointment as Cabinet Secretary for Energy and Petroleum.
The assignment that we were given by His Excellency the President to be fishers of men in the Nyanza region has yielded. And today, the Nyanza region, led by Raila, has joined the UDA administration.
We are going to field a candidate in Ugunja, and we are going to ensure that the first UDA MP will be elected in Luo Nyanza. Together with that, you all know that most likely in the next general election, we may not have an ODM candidate for the presidency, most likely. And with that, all those who are in ODM, we are all going to rally behind President William Ruto and vote for him.
When the whistle will be blown, we will be ready to go and camp in Ugunja in the spirit of bipartisanship, politically on the ground now in Nyanza, to take that seat.
Currently, we stand at 40% in Homa Bay. In the whole of Nyanza, we stand at about 27%. By the time the next elections come, UDA will be at 60–70%. And working together with our brothers in ODM, it will be a foregone conclusion.
Boniface Msangi, K24, Mombasa.
All right, 35 minutes past the hour. Time to take a look at what you're waking up to as far as newspapers are concerned. Some of the headlines here, we do want to take a look at that, and also just to introduce my guests who are already on set. Of course, seated next to me is Honorable Robert Basil, Member of Parliament. Yata, thank you so much for making time this morning.
Morning.
You are an early riser, or we are forcing you to do these things?
I always wake up. So.
All right. Of course, and also Honorable Tabitha Mutinda, who is the Vice Chair, Finance and Budget Committee at the Senate. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and good
I'm
morning.
going to ask the same question. Are we forcing you to wake up early, or this is something you're used to?
Oh, very much used to.
Oh.
We have CBCs, so, you know.
Thank you so much for making time this morning. I want us to take a look at what you are waking up to on the newspapers, and I believe we are going to start with the People Daily. And the top story on the People Daily is Ruto DP in battle as Waiguru exists rather. Now succession, entry in the race for COG leadership by Gachagua key defenders, and Nyeri homeboy rattles president's camp keen to control the Governors Club. This is a story on page 3 of the People Daily. Let me just take a look at that word, what it is saying here. Now, the silent war between President William Ruto and his deputy Rigathi Gachagua is rearing its ugly head in the forthcoming elections for the Council of Governors as chair as the term of the incumbent Anne Waiguru comes to an end. Now, by afternoon, that is yesterday, two governors, Wajia's Ahmed Abdullahi and his Nyeri counterpart Mutai Kahiga, had tabled their nomination forms for consideration. Kiambu's Kimani Wamatangi, who is also being touted among his colleagues was yet to submit his papers. Of course, that is a story on page 3 of the People Daily. You can grab this particular newspaper and get to read that particular story. Also, we'll be getting into the details, so just trying to make sense of what is happening there. Another story making headlines here is why you may be using poisonous edible oil, a story on page 6. Of course, this is a revelation that did shock the Senate yesterday and also coming to shock the nation. It looks like poison is something that we are getting slowly used to when it comes to consumption. Now, Kenyans could be consuming substandard cooking oil because the importing agency allegedly botched the handling of the commodity. Members of a Senate committee had yesterday. Now, of the total 73 consignments of that the Kenya National Trading Corporation shipped in from Malaysia, the Kenya Bureau of Standards told lawmakers it cleared only 44. This is a story on page 6 of this particular newspaper. Another story making headlines here is desperate Masengeli begs for mercy on jail order, story on page 4, and we'll be getting to that particular story later on. Let us now take a look at what you're waking up to on the Standard. The Standard top story on the Standard says, sorry plea, praise and unfinished business. Elusive justice, a new police boss took over yesterday and hit the ground running. With it another promise of another promise of new dawn for justice. But even as Gilbert Masengeli exits the top office with a prayer to court for forgiveness, the president praised his work and failed to expressly call out the culture of disobeying court orders. That is a story on page 4 and 5 of the Standard. Another story making headlines is budget office starved of cash over revelations. So dire is the situation at Margaret Nyakango's office that her staff cannot afford to photocopy documents during audits. She tells members of parliament when she appeared before the Constitution Implementation and Oversight Committee chaired by Githunguri, Member of Parliament, that is Gathoni Wamushomba. This is a story on page 8 of the Standard. Another story making headlines here is how substandard edible oil entered Kenyans' kitchens. This is a story on page 2. And also page 23, that is the world news. Israel enters new era of Mid-East war as Madagascar tycoons bid to buy Zuku. This is on business, page 21. And on matter sports, can police shoot down Zamalek? That is a story on page 32 of the Standard. Daily Nation. What's making headlines on the Daily Nation is the problem with the SHIF. Now, we do have, of course, here reactions from different stakeholders. Let's start with the Health CS. Deborah Baraza says the government has allocated 6.1 billion for SHA, which is just a fraction of the 168 billion needed for full implementation. LSK Vice President Mwaura Kabata says without public participation, there's no mandate. SHIF is unconstitutional and has no basis in law. Kupet SG Akelo Missouri says if we are not going to be part of and parcel of the management of SHIF, then it is dead on arrival. NAT Secretary General, that is Colin Soyu, says the feeling among teachers on the 2.75 SHIF deductions is not positive. We are already being deducted in another comprehensive medical cover, and no one is happy about being deducted twice. FKE CEO Jacqueline Mugo says employers who play a critical role in supporting this transition and subsequent management of the scheme have unfortunately been excluded from the SHA board. Kotu SG, that is Francis Atwoli, says, as Kotu, we want to make it clear that we are in full support as we wait for the formal migration from NHIF to SHIF. Right, that's the top story here. Now, another story making headlines here is as the government prepares to raid the payslips of employees, of course, are still on matters. SHIF from next month looking for 168 billion each year to fund its ambitious universal health care project. The data points in a different direction. Kenyans will fork out much more cash for much fewer benefits in a situation that puts to question the value for money in a plan that is intended to ease the burden of medical bills for families. Story on page 6 and 7. Death, chaos as tea farmers protest over poor bonus. A story at the back page of the Standard. And also Ruto Gachagua factions battle over Waiguru's successor at COG. A story on page 8. Also, we do have Kanjasoni Nasmasengeli finds himself in a tight spot, a story on page 4 and 5. On matters education, story on page 3, it says reports lay bare the disparities between boys and girls in schools. Stakeholders say research findings should help to bring about gender equality in the country's education sector. Right? That is what you're waking up to on the Standard. And I want us to start with one major story, and I believe this has to do with the edible oils. Let's start with this one. Let me start with you, Honorable Basil. What do you make of this particular headline and what the current revelation that has come to our attention as the people of this particular country, that some people might have slept on the job when it comes to edible oil, and right now we have no idea what you're consuming, whether it is good or bad?
It shocks me when we read such a story, considering that we have consumer protection unit in this country. But I think the main problem we have as a country is basically corruption, because those people are vested with the responsibility to ensure whatever we consume fits the minimum thresholds and comes to health standards, seem not to be doing their job. Okay. And that is what we have as a country. So it's shameful, and I think it's something that as members of parliament, we need to have a overhaul of the consumer protection team as well as the Kenya Bureau of Standards, because those two agencies seem not to be doing what they're supposed to do. If they were doing that, we would not be reading such shocking stories. Because now for the Wanjiku who is in the village, or Mutua who is in the village, they would expect to consume whatever in the market without any worry at all. But now you can imagine, when you read such a story, you don't know what to buy and what not to buy. So it's a shame, and we have to pull up our socks and ensure these things are tamed.
All right, pull up our socks and ensure these things are tamed. Let me come to you, Honorable Tabitha. To some extent, this kind of headlines, do shock the nation, because it borders safety and also the lives of people. When people wake up to this, that their lives might have been, somebody is not really taking care of them as they should. What do you read into this, especially with this regulation?
Very shameful, very disappointing to see this kind of reports. I a bit listened to the responses of the CEO, confirming that yes, there was a problem with the consignment. It didn't meet the standards, and the excuse that the office of the DCI, the DCI, within the 30 days of investigations that was to take place, by the time they were supposed to destroy, then you realize that they're trying to cover themselves, that the investigations had just started. Okay. Their mandate allows them, their constitution, their regulations within KEBS allows them to take action to destroy the consignment. As simple as that. Okay. Now, this oil is out there with the people, our people, and we don't know, they cannot even tell us where exactly this oil is, which regions, which parts. Okay. So that at least a communication can be done, So this is a management sleeping on their job in the risking Kenyans' lives. Okay. Very wrong. All right. Yeah.
I want us to take another story that is, at the heart of headlines. And this has to be with Anne Waiguru's term coming to an end, especially, at the COG. Then there are names that have been fronted. Some people, we've seen two, that is Ahmed Abdullahi and Tai Kahiga, seem to want to replace Anne Waiguru. And Kimani Wamatangi, hasn't really presented the papers. Let me start with our assessment as for Anne Waiguru as the chair of the Council of Governors for the past, as her term comes to an end. What will you make of that?
I think it's good to give credit where it's due. For the last couple of years, where Anne Waiguru was the chair for COG, I think she did a great job, because we have not been able to hear major challenges coming from the governors, or complaints coming from governors for that matter. And she has really advocated for devolution. I would imagine a situation whereby if she was not so strong in that particular position, devolution would be actually facing a big challenge. But if you could imagine, or if you remember very well, when we have delays when it comes to remitting money for devolution, she has been very strongly coming forward and raising concerns, including convening meetings with the president, telling the head of state, as per the constitution, we need to have the money remitted to counties. So she has really performed well for that position. And I think she has left a big shoe in terms of who is going to succeed her. So we are waiting to see who is going to take the position.
Do you believe the challenges that have faced governors, especially on the issue to do with funds, disbursement of funds, especially to the counties and all that, and just issues to do with devolution, because there have been calls, especially, complaints from the governors themselves to say the government, the national government seems to be undermining devolved units and to some extent in attempts to kill devolution. How that has been managed, you think that was, as a leader?
I don't think in terms of money being remitted to counties, I think for the last few years, as we have witnessed, counties have been receiving money even before the members of parliament receive their NGCDF. Like as we speak today, I think most of the county governments have received their monies, but members of parliament, we haven't received their money yet. So with the kind of advocacy that has been coming from COG, I think they have succeeded on that front, because you can imagine now, as we are the one who make budgets, but when it comes to remitting money from, or releasing money from Exchequer, they seem to be receiving money before us. The only failure where I would say COG have not done their job is when it comes to taming corruption, that we have been reading in the newspapers, in the local dailies. That is where they have not been able to succeed. We would expect much to be done, because remember, devolution was supposed to create some level of equalization in terms of bridging the gap between areas that have developed more than others. But that is not what we have noted. What we have been reading in the local dailies is a situation whereby money has been embezzled at county level. And that is something that I would expect the new COG chair to look into and ensure there is high level of accountability and proper utilization of public resources, which we have failed to see for the last couple of years since devolution
we are coming
was
back to
initiated.
to just take a look at some of the norms that have been proposed and exactly who seems to be fitting the bill. But Honorable Tabitha, you sit at the Senate, and this is where, when governors have an issue, they will, present their issues to you and say, protect devolution. We are being, facing this challenge here and there, and calling on the Senate to act. When you assess this particular term for her, how would you say she's performed? And for somebody that is coming next, what are they supposed to do?
Brian, let me applaud COG Chair, Governor Anne Waiguru, on leading the G7. She's come out very well in regards to G7, and we are seeing and hoping that the standard that they have set, more women will be able to levelize to the governorship levels. Big up to her on that with her other colleagues. Where I sit in Senate, being the Vice Chair of the Finance and Budget, is where we really handle matters of disbursement. I mean, the issues of the funds issues for the counties. To be very honest, in the beginning, we did not have a near engagement with COG as a committee. Especially when the first time we gave them the 385 from 370, and now we really engaged with COG so much during this last financial year when we were giving them the 400.1 billion, is where I really applauded them and really thanked her for leading the team. And us having these negotiations, being part of now the stakeholders closely, because as much as there's a chair, who's Honorable Governor Baraza, who's the chair of finance in COG, who we work very closely as a committee, but her as a chair, at least we saw that she really led the team this last financial year, which is something very good. But something to really note is that the vice chair of COG, Governor Hamed Abdullahi, we've also interacted very closely as a committee. And I applaud him very much as well as the vice chair, because he's been there when the chair is also maybe not in. He's represented the chair very well in all our engagements for division of revenue, the CARA, the issues of equalization fund. We've had close discussions, and I can affirm that Governor Abdullahi is very competent because he's an economist. His background is matters finance, and he's been very good as far as partaking his mandate on matters finance very, very well. What I expected probably to see a challenge that we would see another lady wanting to take over from Anwar Guru. We are not seeing that, but I believe that, I mean, we'll be able to get a good replacement, and also as a committee be able to have a COG whom we can be able to work closely with on matters funds for the counties.
Now you mentioned one person here that Abdullahi. And he's one of the people that seem to be eyeing to replace Anwar Guru. But we also have Mutahi Kahiga, and let me just quote here: though considered by many of our governors as the right person to push the government to the corner on devolution, this is Mutahi Kahiga. Allies of President William Ruto view him as a too anti-government. I don't know what we could make of Mutahi Kahiga as a replacement to Anwar Guru. Does the COG need a chair that is going to be very forthright when it comes to pushing for the interest of the counties? Because one of the quotes, and let me just take that particular quote, was talking about somebody that needs to sit at as a COG chair is someone that will not allow the killing of devolution. In his eyes, right now, he's looking at what the nation has experienced, or what the devolved units have been able to go through, and somehow he's not convinced that the national government has the best interest for the devolved units. Let me just take that particular quote. I believe it was somewhere here. Yes, sir. It is not about Ruto or Gachagua, but about who can fight for the interests of devolution. We must look at the bigger picture of protecting devolution, which the government appears inclined to kill. If given a chance, how would you assess, would you say he could do a great job as the chair? And also, does the government, does the COG need to be somebody that will be at loggerheads with the government, or somebody that works very well with the government?
I think the COG, what it matters is someone who respects the constitution. That is what you want as a chair. Someone who is clean, who doesn't graft accusation or the bad work of corruption hanging with him or with her. That is the person that we want. Because remember, we did not devolve corruption. What we devolved are resources, so that at least we can uplift areas that have been marginalized and try to ensure there is equity and equality when it comes to development. That was the key principles behind devolution. So the person we want to see as a COG chair is someone who takes the throne and pushes forward to ensure that resources that are devolved are properly utilized. If I look at the people who have fronted, I've never interacted with the Mutahi Kahiga, but I've been, of course, interacting with the members of parliament from Nyeri, and I think most of them, none of them has talked ill about Mutahi Kahiga. So I will not say whether he's not going to perform. Of course, someone who is well known by many Kenyans is Wamatangi. That is a name that is very popular with so many Kenyans. And he's someone who I would say, for example, I can give a story of him, but I don't think I would talk much about Mutahi Kahiga because I've not been able to interact or work with him. Remember, as members of parliament, we never come across governors, but you know, Senate, they normally, they normally grill them.
I throw it to the senator
so
this particular panel in terms of our interaction. And somebody that, sits at the Senate, you've been able to interact with different governors. when this individual comes to the table, do you believe he's going to, you know, you have a harmoniously working relationship? Let me take a break before you get to answer that. We take a break here. When we come back, we'll be giving Senator Tabitha an opportunity to respond to that, and also take a look at this week. A lot has happened, especially on the security front. Don't go too far.